Welcome to Eating Enlightenment. Jared here, your host. Had a great chat with Evolve from BOI Wellness, born obviously incredible wellness. Evolve and I, it was so much fun, a lot of laughter, a lot of choice in our health journeys, seeing that the way we treat ourselves leads to greater vibrations. It leads to this idea of like a manifest destiny, that we, in some sense, control our destinies by the energy we bring to the table. And Evolve's been through a journey, a weight loss journey, but without dieting, more about cleansing, more about taking care of himself, valuing himself enough to take care of himself. And kind of a funny affirmation as well, morning poop. So you'll hear more about morning poop and gratitude and a bunch of other things coming up. Without further ado, let's get into it.
So what are your words of transformation or principles, life lessons?
I would say gratitude and water.
Water.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like hydration is so important, one. And I feel like it gets you back connected with really taking care of yourself. At least it's been that for me. So in so many stories, literally either going to water or grabbing a glass of water has shifted things. So.
I'm a big fan of Dune.
Yes.
And Dune takes place on a desert planet. I'm so excited for the movie coming out this December. So excited. I've never been this excited for a movie, actually.
It's cool. You'll probably be able to stream it due to COVID.
Yeah, that's true. And in Dune, on this desert planet, water is life.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
It is. It definitely keeps us grounded, and who has access to it, right? And who doesn't. And that's always interesting too.
Yeah, those are themes that are in Dune. And so many people, you hear that you have to drink like 8 glasses of water a day. I don't know who does that. I definitely don't do that. But nonetheless, we all need to drink more water.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I was reading a report, and I think 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated, and many of some of the ailments that we have, especially around inflammation, around heart disease and diabetes, are connected to our lack of drinking water. So it definitely is something that I try to remind myself of every day. I'm often posting, drink a glass of water or drink more water, just to remind people that we need it.
And oftentimes people feel strongly about these principles because they have overcome something themselves. Were you ever not getting enough water? Were you struggling with dehydration before?
Yeah, I feel like I really, what I struggled with was insomnia. So when I turned 21, my mother passed away from a heart attack, and that is really when my sleeping would say a sleeping kind of like disorder started, and I believe that so much of that was connected to me being dehydrated. Now that I think about it, I didn't even drink water. I probably would drink maybe a glass in the morning to maybe gargle some um, toothpaste out of my mouth, but I was drinking primarily juices, highly concentrated sodas, and I wasn't able to sleep. And then literally I met someone who told me, "Why aren't you drinking water? Like, you have to drink water." And when I shifted that behavior, I not only started to sleep more, but I just seen my body shift in a way that I wasn't in as much pain. And I think that it definitely was enduring some of that depression from losing my mother as well, by bringing in all of those sugars and toxins. And not saying you shouldn't have it. Like, I don't want folks listening to this to think that I'm like, don't have a good time. But I think there's one thing to be on the extreme of only drinking juice and soda and not drinking any water, to finding yourself somewhere in the middle to compromise those behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it can be really painful, and when you're depressed, you just don't feel like taking care of yourself. Sometimes just don't even want to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm. And sugar is meant to do that, right? Like, sugar gives you that high. So it makes so much sense why I was like, juice, bring on the juice.
Yeah.
And water literally grounds me, right? It grounds me. It causes me to be in that moment and to think. And I think that I was running away from that, literally running away from and dehydrating myself due to some of those mental hurdles.
What happened when you started drinking more water? You mentioned your body started feeling better. You mentioned inflammation. What happened to you physically?
Well, since that time, I think I've lost probably like 30 or 40 pounds.
Huh.
Been the lightest I've been in my life. I sleep a lot better. Like I said, I used to have a lot of lower back pain. I don't have that anymore. And I wouldn't say that I just drink a whole bunch of water, but it's all that I drink. So that's kind of like where I went on the dramatic side. I don't really drink a lot of juice or anything like that. It actually doesn't make me feel good anymore. I think I overdid it a bit.
Hmm.
And when I stopped drinking those, also realized how sweet they were. I think when you go back, you're like, oh, I didn't know that the sugar was kicking like this. So even when I went back to juice, I would do half a glass of juice and half a glass of water to kind of dilute it because the sugar was just like so extreme. But I've seen so much of a shift in my awareness, and literally it's what I use to ground myself in the morning before I write out my gratitude list is literally about 24 to 32 ounces of water to let go of some of those toxins. Because what I learned is that our bodies, like literally when we're sleeping, are releasing toxins, are healing our cells. They're doing all this work to take care of ourselves. When we wake up in the morning, everyone's like, I always got to use the bathroom. We need to. We're,
Hmm.
we're meant to let go of that. And that water in the morning guides that principle of flushing away the toxins and starting a renewal of the day.
Wow. 24 to 32 ounces. When I first heard that you started shifting away from sodas and so forth, I didn't realize it was really a 180, or like it was a complete opposite direction. It was like, not only are you drinking water, you're drinking a good amount of water.
Yeah, definitely. And I got this practice from Sean Stevenson. Shouts out to him. He's actually a
Hmm.
podcast host of this show called The Model Health Show.
Hmm.
And he was, he's big on water. And I did his fat loss code actually program. And one of those things in there was like starting your day off with the water. And literally for a while, that was all the water I would drink would be that 32 ounces in the morning. And I was like, wow, I'm doing something. And then I just start craving it throughout
Huh.
the day more. And I was like, oh, maybe I need some more water. And then one of his practices are drink a glass before you eat your meal. And that was very helpful for me as well, because then I was able to do some of that regulation around like, am I really hungry or am I thirsty? Because I think that being dehydrated for so long, my body was confusing that sometimes, where I was feeling like I was hungry, but I was really craving water and needed hydration.
Yeah, and I imagine too, filling up a glass of water, it could even be this kind of little mindful routine. As I speak with you right now, in the back of my mind, I can hear like a glass of water being filled up in my sink, just like that shh sound.
Hmm.
It just a couple seconds to feel your feet on the ground, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
notice the sound of the water, get in touch a little bit.
Hmm.
Huh. That's so powerful. Um, so 24 to 32 ounces, like how much is that? That's like two or three water bottles, something like that, or
Yeah, I have a bottle that, well, actually, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have a mason jar. It probably was a mayonnaise jar at some point, but it does have ounces on the side of it for some reason, and it says 24, so I went for that. He actually asks you to add like a dash of Himalayan sea salt and also half of um, a a lemon, lemon juice, half of a lemon juice in there, and then a dash of cayenne pepper. I've stopped doing the cayenne pepper just because it kind of irritated me, and he's like, whatever doesn't work for your body, just take it out, which I really like about his principles. It's not about doing the program, it's about finding what works for you. So I took the cayenne out. So I just do a dash of Himalayan sea salt, literally put half of a lemon juice in there and the water on top, and I drink it and meditate. In about 30 minutes, it's time to go to the potty and let go of those toxins. Yes, I am promoting a morning poop. I think that it's important. And you need it. You need it. You really need it to start your day. Get rid
Mm.
of the mess, right? Start the day clear and clean.
I almost want to like add that to your other two words, morning poop, gratitude, water, and a morning poop.
Yes, please do. Add it on.
I love it. How long does it take you to drink the water? Do you drink it while you meditate? What's going on there? Do you just kind of get it all down in one gulp kind of thing, just and then go meditate?
No, I drink it as I'm doing my practice. So usually my practice is a little bit of prayer. I have a
Mm,
prayer and some affirmations that I kind of say to myself, and I write gratitude. And the meditation is very much I would say a shorter part of my morning practice. Is probably like 5 to 10 minutes at the end.
mm.
And usually by that time, I'm finishing up my water and able to, yeah, my body's ready to go after meditation. So it's interesting once you ground,
Mm.
um, how your body will do what it naturally needs to do to take care of itself. It'll literally get rid of the toxins and the things that are not there to support, your
Yeah.
natural well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, starting off the day with that little hydration and before your meals too. I really appreciate that tip. It's just something small, easy to do, pretty simple to understand. Have some
Mhm.
water before meals. It makes a lot of sense. One thing though that's coming up for me, I'm wondering, do you got to go to the bathroom a lot?
Oh yeah, especially in the beginning of this process. And anytime I notice myself going back into those behaviors of just not drinking water, because I don't go back to juice, which is great. I just don't eat a lot of sugar anymore, so I don't crave that. But I do go through the times where I'm really busy and I'll forget, right? Like I'll forget to drink water, or I'm not eating, so I'm not drinking water. And once I get back to that, I'm always like able to be a little bit more centered and think about it a little bit more. But it definitely does help. I mean, it's shifted my life, Jared. It really has.
Yeah, no, I feel it. And I just want to, so when you go to the bathroom, like, so you mentioned that's just part of the process. Like people should kind of expect that. And also sounded like in the beginning you had to go to the bathroom more, but then maybe as your body adjusted to the water, you didn't need to go as much. Was that I hearing you correctly?
Well, yeah, and then I also had to accept that we're supposed to go to the bathroom more. I was
Mm.
working with a personal trainer that's a good friend of mine. His name is Zami Hemingway, and I was telling him about it. I was like, "Man, I'm at work. I always got to go pee," and he was like, Actually, we're supposed to like go to the bathroom after we eat and drink. We're supposed to do this. Like, this is what our bodies are supposed to do. And sometimes when our bodies don't do that, that's a response that we're not doing something actually to support our body, right? Like when
Hmm.
we are like able to go hours without using the restroom, that's actually a red flag. So I just had to
Mm.
get used to it and just make it kind of like a part of my day. And it's so much easier now in this COVID-19 time because I'm at
Uh,
home. I mean,
mm.
literally, the bathroom is like right next to my office, so I don't even have to worry about it. So I'm really appreciating this slowdown because I
Mm.
think at work I would just have to be like, you know what, I gotta go to run to the restroom. I'll be right back, and that is what it is, and people are okay with it. It's okay. But in the beginning, it was shocking to me how much more I went.
Yeah.
But it also was relieving to feel that way. Like your body feels great letting go of the toxins. So I think it's important.
Yeah, that is such a good mindset around just needing to go to the bathroom. How, yeah, we're supposed to urinate. We're supposed to defecate. We're supposed to take a morning poop.
We're supposed to do it all, and we're not supposed to feel bad about it. I always tell my coworkers, sometimes they'll apologize, even on the Zooms nowadays. Oh, I have to go to the restroom. I'm so sorry. I'm like, why are you apologizing? This is what your body does. You are human. But we're used to apologizing for inconveniencing people, but we don't think about when we inconvenience ourselves.
Yeah, and even I think sometimes we think of our body as an inconvenience.
Hmm.
Like our body, like it's almost in this Western culture, we kind of have this assumption that our body is like this, almost like a hammer or like just it's like a tool we use, and to take care of the tool is an inconvenience.
Exactly. Or it's an afterthought, right? Like we only use it when we need to work it. but we don't think about sharpening the tool. We don't think about resting the tool. We don't think
Mm.
about reshaping the tool. Oh, the tool might need some new nuts and bolts. We're not thinking about that. We're just working it, right?
Yeah.
But the work only works if the tool is actually coming from a cup that is overflowing,
Mm-hmm.
and that is treated well. So I love that aspect of what you're bringing up. I think it is connected to productivity, and I think a lot of that is why we are chronically dehydrated, because people are trying to drink and consume things to keep the tool going, right?
Mm. Mm.
Coffee, juice, right? That makes the
Mm.
tool feel like it's going when it doesn't need to go. Sometimes it needs to just sleep. Drink a glass of water and go to sleep, right? But our society is like, no, work more, make more money, work more, do more.
Yeah, more, push it harder. And you're right. People forget. People forget. It's why do you think people forget?
I think that we were easily able to forget because we live in a capitalist society that values money over people, and
Mhm.
I think that we get caught up in that. I think that it's sometimes aligned with your environment and the places that you work, the people that you keep, and I think it's easy to forget about yourself when you're thinking that you're outside of everything that's going on, right?
Mm.
Like, you're not a part of it, you're just a machine. You're a part of the machine. You're not a part of your own legacy. You're not a part of your own
Mhm.
life. You're there to build someone else's dream, to build someone else's company. So you don't value yourself. And
Mm.
I think we were easily distracted. I think people are coming more to themselves now that
Yeah.
we've had to slow down. Some people have lost jobs because of this,
Mm.
but it's also caused people to really come in and be in their inner selves and think about it more. But literally, Jared, I was traveling, what, I think 3 hours a day to get to work,
Whew.
right? Like, I
Whew.
was an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back before all of this. So I am not surprised that I forgot about myself sometimes,
Yeah. No.
right?
I know, absolutely. And it's this I we think so much. We think so much. We're always planning ahead and organizing the to-do list and just ticking off the things we got to do. And for me, I've always had to work on returning to my body. That's what I'm feeling right here with you as we're living someone else's dream, as we're running around and we're not in our body.
Yeah, we're not, and I grew up in the inner city of South Central LA, and I remember talking about this. So I have a master's in clinical psychology, and during our program, we had to go to therapy. This is the only reason why I probably would have ever went to a therapist.
Same.
I was not going to go to a therapist. I was like, what? And they were like, you got to graduate, so you need to go to a therapist. And
Dude, that's what happened to me. I literally was blackmailed into it. I was so pissed. I was like, you're telling me I have to go to therapy? There's nothing wrong with me.
Right, exactly. I'm not going. Yeah. But I went because I needed the degree, right?
Same.
We needed the jobs. And during that time, I learned how detached I was from my body. I remember us
Yeah.
doing a mindfulness exercise and then doing a body scan, and I couldn't feel the lower half of my body. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't even like process that. They were like, "Oh, feel your feet on the ground." And I was like, I don't even feel like I'm grounded.
Yeah.
And I think that for the environment I was growing up in, that was like somewhat toxic. We had gang
Mm.
violence. I had love
Mm.
in my home, don't get me wrong, but
Mm.
my parents prepared me to be able to survive.
Mm.
And a part of that was being numb, right? Like,
Mm.
numbing myself to some of that experience so that I could navigate it
Mm.
and get out of it. But it wasn't something that was sustainable for my whole life, right? Like, I didn't need to be numb anymore, especially when I was with that therapist, but they taught me that. And once I figured that out, that's when I started practicing more mindfulness. And I think that that was really the key for me. Like, I had to slow down and sit so that I could get back in my body and actually know who I was and do the healing that I needed to do.
Yeah, at this very the inner work of health, like linking mind and body together. The word yoga stands for unite, to yoke, body and mind to the spirit. And I really just feel that, you know, when we talk about wellness, for example, in your own show, um, wellness oftentimes has this root Latin word of whole. When we become whole, when mind, body, and spirit are whole together, and you know, so many of us, it's probably just part of it's so many, the majority, including myself, just grow up disconnected from our bodies. We're taught to be numb, taught that it's safer. We don't have the resources, the environment, the parents or whatever, to make us feel secure as kids. And we're growing these masks where we're not feeling within, and it can be really difficult to feel that stuff. And one thing that too I'm really curious about, Evolve, is when you transition to water and you're off the death of your mother recently and you're transitioning to water, was that painful? Was that, you know, did feelings come up that the soda was blocking that you now had to feel?
Oh
What was
yeah.
that like? And how'd you get through that?
You know, shouts out to cannabis. That's definitely one of my medicines of choice. That has helped me so much. It
Mm,
definitely helped with the insomnia as well.
mm,
But I think that it brought up so much, which is why I was happy that I was like actually in therapy at that time to have someone to process it with. Because literally, as my body was shifting, my mind was shifting at the same time, and a lot of that attachment to the grief cycle that I was in, which is what I like to call it. Like I was in a
yeah.
cycle where I was in that cycle of grief where you don't want to believe it, and then you're angry, right? But you
Mm,
know who you're really angry at. You're just angry.
yeah.
So I had to kind of get myself out of that cycle. And I think a part of that was wellness, like learning what was good for my body, drinking more water, moving more. And as I started to do that, it opened up several things. It was painful. I had to really think about my mother's health and
Mm,
what in our environment contributed to that. And
mm,
also, what was I doing to maybe even have some of those same realities, right?
mm,
Like, and what can I do to break that generational curse? And just do a lot of healing work. But it's been powerful. You know, it's painful.
yeah.
Healing is always going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but I think that it's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And that anything worth a reward, it is a little bit painful because you're shifting from what you know, right, into something that you don't know. Like, I don't know what was on the other side of this coin. So it's always going to be a little bit painful and uncomfortable, but I'm so appreciative of it. And I always tell folks, like, you know, like it's kind of like a joke now that's probably not as funny during COVID, but it's almost like, did you die? You know, like, no, I didn't. I'm still here. I'm fine. Actually, I'm a lot better. And usually it's more painful for us because we are accustomed, and I say we as Americans, we're so privileged and accustomed to routine
Yeah.
that anything that throws us off, that off of what we've been doing, is uncomfortable and it doesn't feel good, you know.
Oh yeah.
But I
The
had to do it.
unknown is terrifying.
It is. It's
Even just small
extremely.
things like trying to drink more water, you know, like even just that can be just fearful, you know. Something new is it's hard. It's so hard for humans to live in the gray area where, you know, black and white. It's really, you know, there's something anxiety provoking about the unknown. The unknown is just so anxiety provoking.
Yeah, it's like, what's on the other side? Who am I going to be? Who am I
Mm,
letting go of? You know, I wake up
mm,
every day now because, you know, that was my old self. So it's easier to talk about that. It's harder to talk about who I want to be in the next 5 or 10 years. But I wake up every day and I ask myself, what would that person want? And what do I need to do to get closer to that person? And I think if I would have asked those questions during that time when I was dealing with some of my grief around my mother, it might have been a little bit easier to like look at it as more of what you're doing now, whether that's shifting a behavior, drinking more water, praying more. It's only to guide and support the person in the future. You know, like during that time of my grief, I couldn't even see who I am today. Because it was definitely a hard time. That was my best friend. Shouts out to my mother. I love her so much. So it
mm,
was it was definitely it was definitely a shift in my life. And I'm so happy that that person, introduced water to me, and that I met so many people like yourself through podcasts, through videos, to really tell me to get back in my body. And my therapist, shouts out to them, to give me the tools to know that I was outside of my body, because I would have never even known it. I mean, I'm walking around in it,
Yeah.
but I would have never known that I was so outside of it if I didn't
Yeah.
have that moment, right? I would have just thought I was fine.
Yeah. I mean, a therapist changed my life as well. And, I thought I would have never guessed I was disconnected from my body. I knew that I had something was wrong with me, and but I didn't quite know what. A therapist can be amazing, and I feel like your mom's smiling. I feel like she's smiling right now. Like,
It's
yeah.
funny. I have her picture up with her father right
Mm.
next to me, and she literally is smiling. So when you
Oh,
said that, I looked over at it.
oh.
But yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for
I
that
feel
positive.
like a few people listening to this are going to drink more water, myself included. I mean, that's one of the benefits of this podcast. You're right. It's just you get to meet cool people and learn their little tips and mindsets. And you mentioned gratitude, which was your last principle. And I'm curious how that kind of fits in here, especially, sometimes gratitude is reflecting upon the past. And a lot of the stuff that you've been talking about in the last few minutes has been, thinking about what you want, like desiring the future, like where are you going, and spending some of those valuable moments of our life thinking about what you want and where you're going. And I resonate with that so much. And I'm just kind of curious, like how gratitude fits in with everything.
Yeah, so I started a gratitude practice probably around that same time. Just trying to write down things that I'm grateful for, mainly because I was feeling like I was stuck in this like lack mindset. So because I didn't grow up knowing a lot about like financial independence and what that looks like. I always thought like we had less, even though now that I'm grown and I'm like, oh, actually, we actually were doing pretty well. But I was in this lack mindset, and a friend of mine was like, you need to be more grateful. So I literally did it to reshape my mind, because what I was feeling like was I was lacking so much in my mind about what I wanted and knowing what I wanted that I couldn't forecast my future, right? Like I'm sitting over here not grateful for what I have. So how can I ever dream of what I need if I'm not grateful for what I have right now? Like how can I ever dream of the future if I'm not like in that moment? So literally every morning I try to write down 10 things I'm grateful for, and I try to do it at night as well. Sometimes the night gets a little bit blurry because you get tired, and you don't have time for it, but it helps me to go back to it even in the middle of the day when I'm in meetings and I have a frustrating conversation, and I go back and read my list, and on the top of it is like, I'm happy I woke up this morning. I'm like, you know what? Like, yeah, kiss my ass about that email, but there's a bigger purpose that I'm here for than just this productivity. It's the stars aligned. It's that moment I just recently had. I've seen someone from college that I haven't seen in 10 years walking on the trail randomly in the middle of the day. And I came back and I wrote that down in my gratitude journal, because if I was still working in the city in San Francisco doing that 3-hour commute, I wouldn't have seen him, right? I wouldn't have met with him. That time wouldn't have lined. So the gratitude practice for me, the reason it's so connected to the principle, I think, of my life is, number one, yes, you're right, Jared. It connects me with the past, but it also keeps me present to what I have so that I can forecast my dreams for the future. Because
Mhm.
that's where I was having the problem. Like I wasn't able to really like look at what I wanted. And if you can't know what you want, you can't manifest that and call it in. The only
Yeah.
way you can write an affirmation of what you want is by knowing where you're at and also being grateful for it.
Mm. Yeah. I think great gratitude can, when you think about what you want, it's like what makes you happy, and remembering those moments. I love that how you're writing stuff down and then like bringing it with you during the day, sort of as a way to get grounded and to keep a perspective about you. Like, okay, I just had this amazing moment with my friend, and like that's what life is about. Like, it's not about the work. The work's important, but keeping things in perspective.
Yeah, it's so important, especially in the work I do. I work in higher education, and I'm working in diversity, equity, inclusion work. And with all the racial turmoil we have in this country right now, it's very difficult sometimes to have some of those conversations. So I have to constantly remind myself that even though my institution loves me and they value me, I'm still just a tool for them. And I have to take care of that tool. That's not their responsibility, right? So if I don't take care of myself, I'm not able to live my dreams, which are not their dreams, right? So there has to be that disconnect, and there has to be those boundaries, right? And that's so important. And that's a part of the gratitude as well, right? Like, really having the boundary of time in that
Oh,
morning, that I set up time to actually step into that and create that field and that alignment for myself.
mm,
That's a part of it as well, is the practice of it,
mm,
the ritual of it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you're speaking about gratitude, I'm feeling it evolve. I'm feeling it because I've tried gratitude, of course. I mean, but I haven't really quite like I've never stuck with it. It just never quite clicked with me. But that's why I was so intrigued about how you're linking it to the future, because like I'm more aligned to goal setting. I got a binder of goals, and I more drawn to visualization and futuristic thinking and so forth. And I hear this word, how you're using gratitude, like within the context of personal space and this energy bubble where you're getting grounded in sort of an appreciation for you. Like
Hmm.
you're practicing gratefulness for you. And I love that. Like I dig that. I feel that sometimes I think of these big companies. I'm in Silicon Valley right now, and Google's kind of down the street. And I feel like with their algorithms and social media and Facebook and whatever, these corporations become like you know really big, and they kind of sort of hijack a little bit or divert people's attention from their selves to the corporation. And the corporation becomes this giant organism with like
Hmm.
legs, and it's like spreading like an octopus's tentacles, and it's so vast, and it's so easy to get like lost and kind of consumed in that, in the momentum and direction of these corporate entities. And and like we need a bubble. We need to be responsible for that bubble. You're right. Like the corporations, they're I think they're getting better, but they've got a long ways to go, and they're not gonna. You gotta take care of that bubble. You gotta nurture that bubble, and that's what I feel like when you're using gratitude. It's like this bubble of self protection and cultivating that. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, it's definitely that. And it's a dedication to like self-love, right? Like,
Mm,
putting yourself first.
mm-hmm,
And when you're sitting there and you're saying what you're grateful for, sometimes I always mention myself. I always mention my ancestors, the people who got me here, right? And
mm,
continue, I feel, to guide me.
mm,
And then I always mention my partner and my puppies and the people who are around me, because I don't want to forget about how much I dreamed for this.
mm,
Everything that I'm living right now, I manifested and I dreamed of
mm,
it.
mm,
And I feel like that's what really gratitude is about. Yes, it's about like looking back, but literally I'm usually looking back a few hours, but
mm.
I'm living in my dream. And if I can't enjoy it, it's no way I'm going to be able to manifest seven-figure evolve, which is the thing I'm trying to get to, right? Or financial independence, or owning property, or any of these things that might seem like obstacles now, if I don't have respect and love for who I am in this moment. Like,
Mm.
this person who I am right now today is the person who's going to do the work to build the dream of my future self. Right. So you're right. I'm definitely showing the gratitude and sitting in that self-love. And that's what I would call it too. It's a self-love path that
Mm.
I think many of us are scared to go on, because that means that we actually have to look at the ways that maybe we haven't been loving ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's a self-love path for sure. Like just coming from within. And it's interesting how this is related to, I'll say, I'll say The Secret, but I fully believe in it myself. Like, you manifest what you're thinking about a lot, right? So, like gratitude practice seems like it's been rewiring your brain, so to speak, to be more grateful, to be more whatever we'll say, higher energetic vibration, or the bubble of self-love, and that you see this leading to your happier future self. Like you're practicing this gratitude now, fully knowing that it's going to pay dividends as in your future self. Your future self is going to be more abundant.
Yeah, and I've seen it happen. I can go back to journals now where literally I was asking for a two-bedroom apartment, which we live in. I
Mm.
was asking for a partner that was going to be understanding and really see me as who I am, and I got her. I was asking for a dog, and the dog from Wizard of Oz, and I love Wizard of Oz growing up, and literally my partner, when I met her, she had the same dog, right? Like just these weird moments.
Toto.
Toto, yep. His name is Marley. His name is Marley. Shout out to Marley. But the same dog, a Yorkie. But yeah, it's these moments where you write things down, you say them, and literally you can write something down that's positive and gratitude, or you can write something down that's shitty and that's horrible. And you can manifest both of those. I feel like the power of our word, we don't believe it often because we've got all this technology and all this fancy stuff, but literally back in the day, I mean, in biblical times, they respected the power of the word so much more than we do now. And literally what you say to yourself, what you write down, you can manifest those dreams or those nightmares. So I'm all about trying to stick in the gratitude and be as positive as I can because I have been depressed. I've been through grief. I've been through a whole lot in my journey. And it's important for me to keep my head that way. But I'm not going to, sit up here on this podcast and act like I don't have my moments where I'm frustrated or upset or anything. These are just the tools that I use to get through those moments, right? Like I'm human. I feel things. Some mornings I wake up and I'm like, forget that gratitude journal. I don't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
But I always return back to it because it's my medicine. And I realize that healing and this work that I'm doing is a journey that will always be with me. It's not going to be something that ever goes away.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. It's definitely for me too. It's just I feel like it's the one of the laws of the universe, and I don't even know if it's true or not. I think it's true, but I could be wrong. But just this idea that like the energy that I bring comes back to me, and that keeps me sane. Honestly, like it's something that I don't have total control over it, but there's a lot of stuff I don't have control over, and I don't like thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got something to do with how I show up, and I feel like there's some, cause and effect. I show up a certain way and my future self turns a certain way, becomes a certain way. So I feel you. And, I love your principles. I love that you're coming at this with modesty and humility and just sharing what's working for you. And, you know, that's what I think this podcast is about, like just sharing stories about what works for you. So we got water. I'm definitely going to add in the morning poop because I love it.
Yes. Please do. Please do.
And then we also have gratitude. I want to, before we wrap up, I just want to, can you share with the audience, you have your own podcast. Tell us about it. Where can people reach you?
Yeah, definitely. I have a podcast. It's called BOI Meets Wellness. BOI stands for Born Obviously Incredible. And we weekly interview folks who are incredible, just like Jared, and talk about their lives and their connection to money, mindset, and motivation. You can find that at boymeetswellness.com. I'm also a speaker and working on a masterclass course to teach other speakers how to start speaking for profit and making money telling their stories. So we'll be doing a free masterclass. And if you check out Evolve Benton, that's EVOLVE Benton on Instagram. You can find that free masterclass in the link in the bio. Sign up and come get some of this knowledge. I believe it's so important that we not only share our stories, but that we figure out ways that we're compensated for it. And sometimes that's not even just money. Sometimes that's energy, like this conversation with you, Jared, we're having an energy exchange. And sometimes we don't have to go into spaces where we're not appreciated if we don't want to. So telling our stories and sharing our voices is all about profiting in the boundaries, profiting in the abundance, and profiting in being able to own our own stories and our voices.
Love it. And when I first did, I'll link to the podcast episode with where you interviewed me. I'll link to that down below in the show notes or wherever you're listening to this. There will be a link to the websites and the other interview that Evolve interviewed of me.
That was one of my favoriends. Thank you so much for coming.
And
Jared.
that really inspired me to, we're this new season of the podcast. I just felt your energy and speaking, and you mentioned you're doing a speaking for profit thing too. Like you have a great, smooth, like voice. Like I love listening to your voice. It's like, it's something about it. I don't know, like just resonant or whatever. I don't know. Like if you're a singer or if it just comes from within, or I don't know, like it's just great. So, I'll highly suggest checking that out. But yeah, thank you so much for, sharing a bit about, some of the stuff you've been through and what's working and, yeah, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate it.
No problem, Jerry. You're doing amazing work. And I love how you always bring us back to the body, and this concept of mind, body, and soul. And I think that the work you're doing around being intuitive around our eating is so grounded in really knowing where we're at in our bodies and what we're doing in our bodies, right? Like, am I grounded in it? Am I feeling a little bit of pain? Am I feeling discomfort? And that's so connected to our food. So this has been an amazing interview, an amazing opportunity. And I hope that we can continue, to be thought partners for one another as we build tools to support people with their healing process, right? Like we're really building tools and resources that I hope will change people's lives.
Yeah, I feel so as well. And it's, it's so funny that you bring up like the mind, body, and soul thing and eating. And then like for me, just like it's like I do eating, but that's more on the surface layer. Like for me, eating is a good excuse to talk about the connection, like reconnecting the body, the mind, body, soul, stuff like that. Just funny that you kind of bring that up. I don't know. I don't know if the audience knows that about me. Just like for me, like eating is the symptom, but the deeper than that is where I feel like the work, the joy, the healing, becoming whole and that wonderful journey that, and yeah, it can spread, the more people that become whole, the easier it is for others to become whole. And it's a journey. And, I don't know if it ever ends, by the way. It's kind of weird, right? Like you think like once you're whole, then like you're done, right? Or I don't know. There's something about that language, right? Like whole, like 100%, or it's like, okay, I'm whole now, done. But it's not like that at all.
No, it's an ongoing process, because even as I feel like if I was to look at the self I am right now, probably like 10 years ago, I would have said that's whole. For me, like 10 years ago, looking at who I am today. But now that I'm here, I'm like, nope, that's not whole.
I
have other things I want to do and other things I want to be. And there's some other stuff I can work on. Right. I never say it's whole. I always say it's an ongoing process. Healing is a lifelong process. Literally, probably the moment you're born until the moment you're not here anymore in this realm, right? Because I feel like we always exist. That's my own spiritual belief. You're healing, you're doing the work, and you're not working to become whole. I think you're working to reveal and know who you really are.
Interesting. Yeah. Uncovering and removing the dirt and just like seeing more and more of the radiance that is within.
Yeah, it's a beautiful process though, isn't it? This life, this journey.
Yeah, it is. It is beautiful. It is. Yeah, you get moments like these and, and I think they become more and more, like you get one moment, it's like you're making a wristband of pearls or something, and you get one little pearl, and then they come more and more, and then it becomes more like complete, and it's there with you in some way that you kind of wear with you, something like that.
I love all of your analogies.
I love analogies. I love analogies. I do. I love them.
I appreciate that about you.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for coming on today.
No problem. Thank you so much, Jared. I appreciate you.